Welcome to Heart of the Wild with Tristan and Dianna. We are thrilled to have you here as we speak about all things wildlife, conservation, animals, life on safari, all of the fun things. And today we have a super special episode with a very special guest. We're going to introduce her in just a second. You might see her now. But we want to quickly tell you why this discussion today is so incredibly important to Tristan and I. At the heart of the Wild is always been conservation. We've talked about it so many times. And sustainability and conservation matters to us for many different reasons. There's a number of benefits: preserving our communities, preserving our environment, supporting local communities, addressing climate change. There's ethical importance behind what we're doing here. Tristan, anything to add before we introduce our amazing guest here?
No, well, it's just like it's things that I see every single day in the bush. So there's like times where there's lots of harm being done. There's some incredible things being done as well. And yeah, I just think great that we can kind of highlight that and then hopefully for future generations, leave it better than we even got it here. So exciting stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, one thing that we found is so many synchronicities between the work being done with animals and conserving the presence of specific species and the work being done with travel and animal welfare and travel, people that are traveling that can help the work that's being done as well that we do. So this is where we want to bring in our incredible guest, Whitney. So Whitney Haldeman, who is also known as Blonde Atlas. Many of you listening may already know her. She's the founder and managing director of Atlas Adventures. I'm going to read this because there's just so many things that she's done and I don't want to miss anything. She's highly revered as a luxury travel advisor. She offers custom tailored travel planning for discerning clients, as well as female-empowered group travel to destinations all over the world. Whitney is also an American living in London, like myself, so I have a very special place in my heart for her. She's worked with some of the top brands in the luxury and travel sectors. She's been featured in global publications such as the Huffington Post and British Airways and Newsweek. Most importantly, in our eyes, Whitney is enrolled Atlas Adventures as a member of the Conscious Travel Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to meaningful and positive impact through travel. And in her own words, she said that she believes that traveling shapes our worldview immensely and gives us greater curiosity for not just destinations, but how the world operates at large. So just such a perfect fit for, our conversations. Tristan, anything else about Whitney that you know? I know you know her as well.
Yeah, lastly, something that we definitely can't forget is Whitney is actually the reason why Heart of the Wild exists, which I think is quite exciting. Di, you came over with one of Whitney's groups, and that's how we met, and that's how we started this whole thing. So, Whitney, thank you so much. Thanks so much for coming here today, and welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun, seeing everything that you guys have put together already. And I've only been with the two of you together in the bush. So seeing you in Spotify studios and having these conversations is really, really special. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that very flattering introduction.
It's all the work you've done. So yeah, thanks for being here.
Of course.
We're going to jump right into it. You've got such a big heart, and the work that you've done, with your company has that sort of importance to it at the heart of it as well. So as a travel expert focusing on sustainable and ethical travel, what made you want to bring those pieces into your business?
Yeah, I think I don't want to say moral obligation, because it wasn't ever something that came from a place of I should do this as so much as I genuinely want to. I think that the line I say over and over again is travel is hugely important for opening our hearts and minds and eyes and making the world a more tolerant place and just exposing you to different perspectives and worldviews. But it comes with an environmental footprint, flying. There's so many different ways that we could talk about the environmental implications of something. But I think that the solution isn't to stop traveling to minimize carbon impact. The solution is to how do you offset that? How do you make more responsible decisions when you travel? And how do you, make sure that the what you're gaining from these experiences outweighs any, harm that may be caused along the way? And so I think just there's so many different ways you can do that. And a destination like Safari in particular feels to me like the most pertinent solution in terms of, there's so much there's so much I could say. I'm like, words are flying out of my mouth
I love
before
it.
the first
We
question.
love it. This is perfect.
Yeah, no, I think that, you can visit a destination like Italy, and yes, you can learn from the fact that they have, they're a bit of a slower pace and they take longer lunches and La Dolce Vita and these beautiful things that you can bring home with you. And yes, it might cause you to slow down a bit more in your day-to-day life, and there can be beauty and importance and those kind of lessons. But I think the knowledge and lessons that you gain from safari are just next level. I mean, there's the conservation work that's being done in terms of you funding that by, choosing a responsible lodge and things like that, where you're able to actually fund knowledgeable guides like Tristan and people who are really dedicating their life, of course, dedicating their life to these animals and species and helping, this land be purchased and protected so that these animals have space to roam. But then on top of that, there's all of the ways that it changes you. There's the ways that, I mean, if you've been to the bush, it's people who aren't even animal lovers will say there's something wild and sacred and special that you can't put your finger on. And so I think that kind of travel completely transforms the way you view the world and makes you go home with just a transformed perspective on how do we appreciate this planet more. How do we even like observing animal behavior in humans, right? You see the ways that animals interact in the wild, and we all want to belong, we all want to feel safe, we all want to have our needs met, these like very primal instincts that we have. All of that exists in the bush. So many different layers and nuance to it.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't gone to the bush yet, then Whitney,
what are you waiting for?
What are you doing? Like, Whitney will get you
well,
inspired to do that.
I mean, 100%, but I couldn't agree more. I mean, with me being here kind of on the ground, I get to meet all the guests that are coming to the bush, whether it's for the first time or whether they've been 50 times before, but they'll all say the same thing. I know we touched on it like very briefly in one of our previous podcasts as well, that, there's something that you just can't put your finger on it. But like when you arrive in Africa, when you come on a safari, there's something that like almost instinctually like connects you there. And I think I think you learn a lot about yourself out there. So I couldn't agree more with you on that.
I always say the bush brings out the best in people too. Like when you come to a city, there's crowds and people demanding things of you and chaos, and that can irk you. It can make you, just not be the best version of yourself. Being in nature grounds you so much. Seeing these animals that, at the end of the day, I'm like, everything's a construct. Money, what I'm doing for all this is like, I've created this importance because of society and stuff like that. When you come to the heart of nature, it's like, I'm an animal at the end of the day, and like watching these species exist in a way that like at our core is how we should be existing, but often don't. It's really inspiring.
That's such a beautiful way to explain it. It almost takes you out of yourself and shows you the greater purpose. There's so much going on in the world. Tristan, we talk about this all the time. Like we want this to be a space where people feel safe and people feel inspired and people feel really good. And I think a lot of the listeners here have really good hearts and care a lot about, the non-materialistic things that you just mentioned. So, I do believe, and a safari is a great expense. And I know that, a lot of people don't always get to experience it. So we want to bring that to life for people as well, even if you can't physically get there. But it is just something that it is so primal that it really just kind of takes you out of yourself and makes you realize like what really matters in life.
The example I always use, I'm not a mom, I don't have children, but my mom would always say to me, you don't understand, like until it happens to you, you can't understand like a mother's love. And my mom came to Tandatila with us on safari, and
Hi, Deb.
Hi, Deb. And
Deb.
I had said to her prior to that,
We love Deb.
I love her too. She's the best. She was like Heart of the Wild's #1 fan. She's like, I can't wait for the podcast to come out.
Oh, she's the best.
But yeah, I had said to her previously, I was like, that's how I feel about safari. Like you can't put your finger on it. You can't articulate it. You can't fully understand it until you do it. And then you're like, I get it now. And when she came on safari, I'll never forget. She was like, yeah, you're right. This is kind of the same.
Yeah, she gets it.
Yeah.
It's so true. You mentioned a few different places in the beginning, Italy and city breaks, things that are, maybe not specific cities, but, and then obviously safari. as I said, I think a lot of our listeners have those really big hearts and care a lot about giving back to the world. Are there any places, obviously, I think Safari would be one of them, but are there any places that you could mention that people can go to and also give back and have meaningful experiences while also, maybe having less of a footprint or something like that, that our listeners can take back from your expertise?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many places. I think that's the beautiful thing about Conscious Travel, the organization that I have joined. It's a collaboration with so many different hotels, tour operators, agents, advisors, people in the industry who are not even just holding each other accountable, but helping shape the industry and all making a collective effort. So I've learned a lot about amazing hotels and properties that they really exist everywhere. You can do. My husband and I are planning our honeymoon right now, and we're going to the Seychelles. And I recently watched David Attenborough's ocean documentary. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. I love him. I just think he hung the moon, and he talks about everything with such like optimism and hope and like all hope is not lost. So often those documentaries can be very doom and gloom. And he always kind of brings it back to this is the good news. This is what we can do. He talked a lot about coral reef restoration and the importance of, the ocean can regenerate itself quite quickly. We've seen that in other areas. And a lot of it comes to biodiversity that comes from coral reefs. And so I talked to a partner from the Conscious Travel Foundation who specializes in the Seychelles and said, hey, I don't know anything about this. I don't want to just do something for the sake of feeling good about myself or patting myself on the back, but is there an opportunity to do any sort of coral reef restoration, even if I'm just funding it and maybe snorkeling to see the corals? What are the projects that they're doing? I'm not a coral reef expert, but is there a way that I can, having seen that, I would love to contribute. And so they're connecting us to one of their ground partners who's helping us, essentially donate towards and figure out some sort of coral reef thing. So my encouragement would be there's so many ways that you can give back in a meaningful way. I think it's always making sure that you are working with people in organizations, whether it's travel advisors or ground partners, just a whole range of people in the industry who have the expertise. Because sadly, giving back can also be a money-making thing. People can prey on the good hearts of people and, bathing elephants in Thailand or some of those things that you think you're doing good, but really you're patting yourself on the back and somebody's collecting profits and the animal's not really benefiting from anything.
Yeah.
So I think the options are endless. I think really the first step is educating yourself on who is the right person to help me find a meaningful way to give back in the location that I'm visiting.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a really good point about the profits versus the expertise. And Tristan, you and I have touched on this a bit as well. Are there any ways that our listeners can go and have those actual experiences, not maybe location specific, but say they want to, I actually asked you about this when I was going to Africa, say they want to go and volunteer with an elephant sanctuary or, they want to go and have a marine experience in Greece. Like these are the things that we see trending right now. They're huge on TikTok and they're all over, the internet when you are searching for specific locations. And again, when you've got that like deeper heart for animals, I think it's something that you really long to do, but there's the ethics behind it. Like what can you look out for to make sure that you're doing it in the right way?
I think sadly it's kind of hard to know. So I remember researching quite a bit before I went to Thailand because I was like, I would love to volunteer with elephants in some capacity. Like I know that they have quite a long history of like working elephant culture. And everything that I kept reading into, it's so gray and it's really hard to differentiate. And I remember I worked with an elephant rescue in Hohenwald, Tennessee, actually. It's the elephant sanctuary. It's so random. And they were really...
Tennessee?
Yeah, Hohenwald, Tennessee. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm just surprised in Tennessee.
I was as well. I'll have to find it and you can put it in the show notes or something. Yeah, but perfect. It's that was one of the most impactful volunteering opportunities I've had. I say volunteer in air quotes if you're not seeing the video because they were you have to first enter a lottery to volunteer. A friend of mine had entered the lottery a while ago. And then they don't guarantee that you will even see the elephants because they're like, if you're coming to volunteer, this isn't a photo opportunity. It's not a way for you to pet the elephants or feed them. if you genuinely want to volunteer, then we will give you work that you can do. So we were doing, these are animals, elephants that had been rescued from circuses and things like that. And now they want them to be free. They don't have to pose. They don't have to do anything. Even from the second that they open the ramp of the truck that the elephant arrives on, they don't poke or prod. The elephant gets to walk off as and when they feel ready. Sometimes they'll line the whole thing with bananas and just wait, and then they always get to make the decision as and when they do something. So but they're still in captivity in the sense of it's a walled area that they wouldn't be able to be released in the wild and survive. So they want to have a sanctuary where they can go. And so anyway, we're essentially tying bamboo around tires and things because in the wild, if an elephant was feeding from a tree, they would have to actually like use their trunk and certain muscles and pull. So you were kind of creating these, like mental simulation for them to be able to feel like they're in the wild. And so we did that for several hours. I think we're like sweeping things, and towards the end, across the distance, we could see the elephants, but that was the kind of volunteer work that we were doing. It's very different than a lot of times when you see volunteering, you see pictures of people like petting the elephant or bathing the elephant. And a lot of times, I think we love the thought of that, of like, oh, I can do good and have this interaction. And I think that there are probably examples where that exists, but I would say just to proceed with an abundance of caution, because a lot of times, and Tristan, you can probably speak to this better from, knowing some organizations in the bush and whatnot, but I do think that often people see it as a business opportunity. If we frame it in a way, people know, oh, riding elephants is bad, but if we frame it in a way that they're doing good, we can make a lot of money off of this, and they can put it, kind of a misleading spin on it. And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I agree with you. I mean, we see that here, we spoke about it maybe in one of the other podcasts where I was saying how, we see the same thing here with some organizations where you can, volunteer, especially when it comes to, big cats and predators. And something that, really kind of gets on my nerve is often they'll say that they're here just temporarily and then they're going to be rewilded. But that's hardly ever the case.
Yeah.
To rewild a natural predator is almost next to impossible. And if they do happen to rewild it, then the success rate of that animal is so slim. So you do get some of these animals that are born into captivity, and then there's volunteer programs, people coming over to help this whatever this organization is in order to raise up these lions to be rewilded. And I'm also using air quotes again, back out into the wild. And I think I'm super skeptical about that stuff myself, so I would have to do a lot more research into that before I'd ever commit to it.
Yeah, I think in terms of answering the question, I can be very long-winded and come back around to these things.
No, this is good detail for people to know.
I think there isn't a quick and easy answer of this is what you look for, because I don't know how much regulation even exists around language in terms of, and depending on the destination of how they advertise themselves. So I think it's really going to experts in set fields. Like I said, that's why I'm in an organization like Conscious Travel Foundation, is because these are the people who, in order to become a member, there's an interview process. They're looking into some aspects of your business. So there is some accountability. And so people in that organization, I do have an element of trust. And so I feel like those are the kind of people, if I say, hey, I would love to do some sort of volunteering in, like I'm doing in the Seychelles, they're going to point me in the right direction and connect me to people who are actually doing good and helping me do it in a way that actually would be helpful, not causing harm, and just doing something to feel good about myself and pat myself on the back, right?
I think what both of you are saying, it's clear that you have to do the research yourself. And if it sounds too good to be true, it likely is, which is unfortunately the case in so many different instances. But when you're working with animals and you want to, feel good about the work that you're doing, you really have to make sure that the organizations that you're working with are legitimate. And again, if it's a case where it's really hands-on work that you're maybe not qualified to do, it likely is the case that it's not, the best case scenario for that animal.
Yeah, and I would take it a step further. Even I think there's a lot of ways that, the world today will be like, do your own research. And it's like that can be dangerous, slippery slope because there's so much information out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think how to
Mm.
do wise research is to who are the people that are actually knowledgeable about this. So who in the industry, like we can't all be experts on everything. So looking to people who do have that expertise in the travel industry, whether it's destination specific or if there's a particular animal you're wanting to, volunteer with, or a certain cause that you're more passionate about, who are the experts in that category and who can you ask to get more information from, because a Google search can point you to a lot of different ways and it's not always going to be the most ethical choice.
Yep. I think that's really helpful for our listeners. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the things that Tristan and I have talked about, and something that really inspired Heart of the Wild in general, is, the trip that I took with Atlas Adventures, the ability to meet Tristan through that trip, and the rhino anti-poaching experience that we did on that trip. That really was something that just, you talked about, but just before, how it's just so eye-opening being in the bush. It's so inspiring. It brings you back to that sort of primal feeling. And I think being on that anti-poaching helicopter flight, as you just pointed out, we weren't anywhere near the rhinos, but we were learning so much about the work that's being done to help in those anti-poaching efforts. So this all gets to everything we're talking about today, the work that you're doing in conscious travel, the ability to give back and help, even, in really ethical ways, even if you're not like super hands-on. And I want to hear a little bit more about Atlas Adventures and the things that you're doing and the ways in which you can do those sort of trips and experiences ethically.
Sure. Yeah. So quick overview for anyone who doesn't know Atlas Adventures. We are a group travel company by women for women, and our kind of like core values are creating fun experiences, facilitating meaningful connections, and empowering better travelers. So obviously people travel with the intention a lot of times to have fun, which, sometimes sounds frivolous, but I think in today's world, like everything strips you down so much, it feels like the world's on fire. And I think fun is actually so important to refill our cups and give ourselves breaks that we deserve. The connections piece, these trips being for women, there's a really beautiful community aspect to it. So I always say it's for women who prioritize travel but don't have other people in their life who prioritize it the same way. So whether that's you're single and all your friends are married, whether that's you're married with kids but your other mom friends won't leave their kids behind, like if you have trips that you want to take and you want a community of like-minded people who share those, kind of like a similar worldview in terms of the type of travel that you're wanting to do, this is the place for that. And finally, empowering better travelers. Like I say, I think it's so important for us to have these experiences, both to fill our own cups and to also like learn more about the world. But it comes with a footprint. And so I don't want to create an organization that's just take, going to Instagram hotspots and taking selfies and, all of this stuff and not going home having learned anything about the culture. And so the empowering better travelers piece, there's kind of a few different elements of it. On one hand, it's how does it shape you as a traveler? So how can we be more mindful we are always looking for ways to, like in Sweden, we just got back from one for Swedish Midsummer. And so Midsummer is like the second largest holiday next to Christmas there. And so we were eating pickled herring. We were doing all of their little like dances around the maypole, making flower crowns and like really immersing ourselves in the culture and trying to
Pickled
call out.
herring.
Yeah, not my first choice of food, but it actually is better than I thought.
Really?
Tristan, we had impala when we were in South Africa, which was amazing, very delicious, but on its face,
Out of your comfort zone.
yeah, a little out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. But that's the importance,
nice.
right?
Fair
Like, I
enough,
think finding those cultural tie-ins to experience, immerse yourself in different things and understand why is this important to the culture that I'm visiting? Or like I said, even if it's just one of the call-outs that some of the girls made on the Sweden trip was, it was so heartwarming to see all the families playing board games and like engaging with each other. No one was on their phones, and it just made me really want to live more presently. So that's one piece of empowering better travelers, is how can I learn from these destinations and go home a better version of myself? But then also, like, how can we as an organization do good? Because there's power in numbers. And so every hotel we choose to stay at, every vendor that we choose to support, like, we can either be supporting small businesses and locals who are trying to also make conscious choices, or we can be funding more, thoughtless, capitalistic, you know, that direction. And so I think a huge thing that we try to do, some accountability goals that we've set. Number one, this year we joined Conscious Travel Foundation. One of my colleagues has been dedicating a significant amount of time, because we've always had the heart, but not always the bandwidth. So we now have support of someone who is dedicating quite a bit of time to our work in conscious travel. We did a carbon literacy training program. She did a carbon literacy training program. And kind of, so one of our goals for the year is we're going to calculate and come up with a plan to offset our carbon footprint by the end of the year. We will have the plan by the end of the year, and know where we stand. We're also, trying to be really conscious about the organizations that we support. So one is David Attenborough's World Land Trust. That's essentially buying and protecting biodiverse land. So we have purchased 10,000 US dollars worth. I believe that's 100 acres of land in different parts around the world to protect so that biodiversity can thrive. Because as you know, Tristan, like, it's one thing if you plant a tree, but it takes so long for life to then come in around that. When you're in a biodiverse, like dense land, there's so much life that's already there. So rather than planting trees, we need to be protecting the land that's already existing. That's one end of it. And then the other end is people. So we have a people portion and a planet portion. The people portion is we are working with an organization called Hand in Hand that's helping women's economic empowerment. Again, being a company that's by women for women, we want to give back to women. There's so many different like roads we could go down in terms of how we talk about this. But I think to me, when you talk about how do I travel more responsibly, it's like thinking about it holistically. In some ways that could be, I'm going to remember to bring my reusable water bottle rather than buying single-use ones everywhere that I go. It can be, I'm going to rent clothes from Rent the Runway or any kind of, clothes rental subscription if it's a destination where you're probably not going to wear those clothes again. It can be everything from what are the organizations I can give back to once I've, asking the right questions, making sure that you're working with like local guides. And I mean, there's not a little tick, like check the box short list. You can tick all these things off. It's very comprehensive. And so it's just, how do I move through life in general, but especially my travels with that mindset of every little decision you make can be for good and empowering, or it can, be neutral. It can be harmful. So how can you just be more thoughtful about every decision that you make?
I love that. And, as a traveler that has gone on an Atlas trip, first of all, I think something like 80% plus of travelers care about having that sustainable footprint while they're traveling now. And I think that as people sort of move forward from generations that have the, autonomy and ability and money to travel, I think that will only go up.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope so too. And I think the work you're doing is so inspiring to really lean into that. But that was absolutely a consideration that I took when I was choosing, whom I would want to travel with and work with. So kudos to you for almost taking that, like, I think about Lego, B Corp mindset in what you're doing as a founder. And Tristan, I think, where you work is actually a perfect example of that, and a company that you, and a lodge that you partner with. I know that there's a lot of work being done right in Kruger and with the lodge that you're with.
Yeah.
What's happening over there? I would love to hear more, like, on the ground as well.
Oh, well, massively so. I mean, something that I've found also, like with a lot of travelers coming nowadays, is they are so conscious about all of that. And I mean, we get asked questions all the time on how we're giving back, whether it's to like the community people or whether it's to the actual natural surroundings and the environment. And so, I mean, especially like where I am here, we put in a massive effort, and there's actually even a portion of everybody's booking, and it's not just us, which is great. I mean, it's so many lodges now, I know, within South Africa, and I'm assuming throughout, Southern Africa, maybe the whole continent, and definitely something that maybe you should look out for if you're looking to, like, book one of these lodges, is asking directly, like, how do you guys give back? And so there's a conservation levy attached to you're booking here to stay with us, and there's a percentage that goes directly back into the reserve, and then also funding like other projects that the lodge is taking on. So I know, like for us, we've got like educational like projects where children are going through and getting put into like amazing private schools. A lot of the time it's the staff that like are here at the lodge, like helping fund their children going through like into these like great schools. Working directly back with like even this, like there's my hat. See, it's coming into play now.
Oh yeah, where's the hat from, Tristan?
Well, it's a ground.
If you're not if you're
project.
not watching, Tristan has an amazing hat on today, with a southern ground hornbill. Did I say that right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
So no, that's not. And so like there's also like a percentage of the booking that goes towards them and helps to fund these projects. I mean, they're doing amazing work on the ground. I mean, they're researching ground hornbills. It is actually a species that you can rewild, and so they're introducing them back into areas that the ground hornbills might have been extinct in throughout the park. And so that's just like such amazing work going into our anti-poaching team as well. So like our anti-poaching team is so dependent on tourism. So like in order to protect rhinos, when I say anti-poaching team, it's like the men and women on the ground that are literally like fighting to keep the rhinos alive, that are trying to deter poachers, that are making sure that people don't come into that area. Like that is so dependent on tourism for people coming through, because that's how they get funded. But like I was saying, what is really great is like nowadays I'm finding, especially with younger generations, they're so conscious of that. So it's something that we're very proud of at the lodge. And something that people I think are drawn to us for it, because we do so much work out there, which is pretty cool.
It's amazing. And also something to feel really proud about.
Yeah.
Amazing. Sorry, Tress, do you have anything else to add?
No, I was just going to say, well, I'm taking the people out on drives. I'm kind of doing the fun part, to be honest with you. I think all the credit should go to the people that are on the ground doing all of that work, yeah.
Yeah, but they couldn't do it without you being there and servicing all the tourists and making sure that they are knowledgeable about all the animals that you're helping. So I think that that's really amazing.
Well, and it really gives legs too.
Thanks.
Like I think a huge part of the conservation needle continuing to move is people like you and me who go to the bush and visit, and we have great guides and who give us the heart and really bring the story to life, so that we go home and tell all of our friends to say, this is the most life-changing experience, you have to go. And it's like a guide really brings that to life. So don't water down what you do, Tristan. It's really important for bringing it all to life.
Yeah, and ultimately
Thank
you were
you
the
very
one
much.
who said that you wanted to bring your knowledge and all of this incredible information to a wider audience. So that is also the spark that made Heart of the Wild come to life.
Thanks, God. Yeah, you're making me blush, eh?
Yeah, love it. We love it.
Tristan said something. I don't know if you have another question queued up, but Tristan said something that made me think of something that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah,
If that's okay.
no, go. Yeah.
So yeah, you were talking about how every time that you stay at a lodge, or not at any lodge, but a lodge like Tantatula, there's a conservation levy that's involved. I think so. In addition to the group trip side of my business, I also am just a travel advisor who can plan like honeymoons or like individual trips too. So like if you wanted to go to Italy, if you want to get whatever, I can plan it. And a huge part of our business now is Africa. And we always have kind of a starting budget, not because you have to do it in such a luxurious way. However, something that I have learned and think is important, people send me videos all the time on Instagram when I'm going to the bush. It's like, did you see this elephant charge this vehicle and this and that? And stuff can happen. It's wild out there. So like stuff can happen. However, something I think is hugely important is all the lodges that I've ever visited, while yes, they tend to be, they're not the cheapest ones out there. And I think that in addition to the money that you're spending funding the conservation levy, it's also paying guides like fair wages so that they can get the education that they need, so that they can have an actual proper living. Like I've never been in a position where I felt threatened, because I feel like I've always had incredible guides. And I feel like the lodges that, maybe where some of those incidents happen, my gut, Tristan, you can probably chime in on this, probably doesn't have as either well trained or as much experience. Like the guides don't, how can you be paying a guide appropriately when you're only charging, $200 US per night for, that's for your hotel, for your food, for the amenities, housekeeping, all of that stuff. It's like, they can't do anything for conservation. They can't pay the guides, well. So the experience is just totally different. And so I do think that's something we tell people all the time. Safari is more of an investment, and you may look online and be like, oh, well, I found this lodge that, fill in the blank. And that's where I would say proceed with caution, because it's not about that we're not pointing you only to places because we're snooty and say you have to go to the top 5-star lodges. But there is a baseline of, if you're going to be going out there, you should be paying the conservation fees generously. You should be making sure that you have a lodge that cares about compensating their guides fairly so that they can keep you safe, so that they can get the education and training that they need. There's so much more that goes into it than just, is there a plunge pool in your room? So.
No, I mean, I think you're 100% right. I think that you do get, unfortunately, out there, like it's called the wild for a reason. So there are some things that, happen that can sometimes be out of the guide's hand. I mean, I might be a good example of that. Like I had like a horrible run-in with an elephant, and it was just the wrong time and wrong day. It's the wrong place. But I mean, we were all fine and we got out of it like unscathed and everything. But it was a bit of an eye opener. But I think, for us working in this industry, like if you're working at some of these lodges that, yeah, of course they are, like you're saying, they can be very expensive to go to. For us, like as a way of life as well, like that's much higher than like a lodge that, might not be charging so much rates, for all the examples that you've just said. And I mean, even for like us here at Tunda Tula, everything that we want to do within like our career here, so like guiding wise, so whether we want to do practical exams and like walking trails, or whether we want to take on like, okay, we want to do like an advanced birding course, or we want to go up a level like in our guide qualifications, that's all funded for, which is massive. Like not a lot of lodges do that. And I think because like lodges like Tunda Tula are doing that, I mean, like you'll see like the staff here, geez, I'm actually like the newest guide here, and I've been here for 3 years, which in a lot of other lodges, I mean, they can be a big turnover of guides, and then, no one's really getting to know the land very well and like how everything works. And so, being at a lodge like this, where I'm the newest and I've been here for 3 years, is really quite unique. I mean, the oldest guy that's been here, Scotch, is 30 years. So,
Wow.
and like the guy knows the land like the back of his hand, right? And I think that plays into it massively as well from like a guest experience.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this in an episode as well, just the ethics behind what goes on safari, which Tunda Tula holds to the highest standards. And listeners might not know, but Tristan has been in school for what he does for quite a long time, where many of us go to university or college for communications or marketing or, what have you. Like Tristan went to school for guiding and is an absolute expert in everything that he does. And I think that speaks to the caliber of what, the lodges that you're working with are upholding to their standards. So, that might just be something that our listeners don't even realize. And that's something that is very, very important when you're putting your real life into the hands of the guides that you're out on drives with.
I love that they empower continued education too, because you can go get the degree or finish the guiding course and tick, but I think having that curiosity, like if you want to do a birding course, if you want to do that, the fact that they empower you to keep going, keep learning, keep becoming better and better at your job is huge, because a lot of other places wouldn't prioritize that from a budgetary perspective, and it's hugely important for not just the guest experience, but also like the level of knowledge that you have for even being out in the bush. And the more education and efforts towards conservation, the better for the planet, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. But I have a 2-part question for you.
Okay.
For the final question. The first is not necessarily conservation related, but the top destination that you're looking forward to in 2025 for the back half of the year. And the second part of it is what you're most hopeful for the future of conscious travel.
Ooh. Gosh, I can never pick just one, so I'm saying 2. Sorry.
That's fine. There's no real rules here.
These are totally different, but one, I will say, is the Seychelles. We're doing that for our honeymoon, and just really excited to be somewhere that's so naturally beautiful. And yeah, like I'm excited about the coral reef project that we're hopefully going to be volunteering with, and more to come on that. I'm still kind of putting all the pieces together, but really excited for the Seychelles and just being amongst natural beauty and unplugging. And then the second one, totally different chaos, but I'm going to Japan in November, and I'm really excited about just like cultural immersion. And I've heard so many wonderful things, and I'm not, other people on my team have been and are experts. I personally have not, and I feel like I'm going in very very fresh, like a rookie, don't know really much. So I'm really excited to just be a student and learn and immerse myself in another culture.
Amazing.
And second question, what am I most hopeful for?
Yeah, what you're most hopeful for the future of conscious travel?
Oh my gosh, so much. I really think I'm hopeful that, from what I can tell, like upcoming generations seem to really care. I feel like when you see, I get a lot of climate anxiety, largely around a lot of, lack of prioritization that we've seen from a lot of leaders and things like that. But when I look at the youth and the people, like younger generations up and coming, and the passion they have for it, I think that there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful for the ways that other people are prioritizing it. I see, so much. Like oceans is at the forefront of my mind because I just watched that David Attenborough documentary. But like regulation around things like overfishing and the work with World Land Trust and like buying and protecting land. Even in the travel industry, how we're seeing a lot of people starting to prioritize safari. A lot of millennials and people who are kind of in that. A lot of us have done Europe, and are like, okay, I've done Italy. I want something a bit more adventurous, and so they're starting to book safaris in places that are a little more adventurous or unfamiliar to them. And I think that there's a lot of eye-opening experiences to be had, and a lot more passion that's going to continue to grow. And I think the more that people, to your point, like if 80% of travelers care about that in some capacity, then shifting from an Aperol Spritz on the Amalfi Coast to a sundowner in the bush, like I think you come home with maybe more of an appetite to what can I do to give back in a meaningful way.
Amazing. That leaves me feeling really hopeful. Tristan, I hope it leaves you feeling really hopeful, and everyone listening.
Big time. Great answers.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, what a way to wrap things up and go into our segment of What the Wild, where we try to stump Tristan. We've got a friend with us here. We try to stump Tristan with a sound from the bush. And also today, we're going to try to stump Whitney. We're going to see if Whitney can guess what in the wild is happening with this mystery sound.
I'm glad I'm not alone on this. I'm glad I'm not alone on this, Whitney.
You're not today.
I'm probably not going to be much help.
That's okay.
We'll see.
Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have Whitney guess first. Does that work for you, our special guest?
That works perfectly for me, Whitney.
Okay, you guys also, this has never
there's
happened. There's a fly in here, and it's a big one. I don't know if anyone can see.
Just buzzing around your head. He really likes you.
I really don't like it. I put perfume on, and it was a bad idea.
He's gone now.
Okay.
He got stage fright.
Yeah.
Okay, when I first heard it, it started to sound like a hippo laughing, but it wasn't. I could tell the more that I listened to it, but it has a similar sound. I think it sounded, there's like a squawking to it. It's not an impala calling, but I'm thinking it's some sort of antelope adjacent animal is my guess.
That's a good guess.
I think I know what it is, if I can say it.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, it's a wildebeest. I think it's blue wildebeest.
Yes, you are right. And Whitney, that was a really good
adjacent.
guess. I think so. Yeah, I was very impressed.
Super good.
Yeah, the way that your mind worked through that was very impressive. We have yet to stump Tristan on these sounds, and I'm going to talk to you after this episode because I need to get like some kind of crazy specific bird. For anyone who listened,
this is what I'm worried about with you.
I know. I'm going to make it happen.
You're going to
Last
find
week, which one?
No, it's like you're going to find like a sunbird from like the heart of the Congo that like there's probably 4 left in the world, and then play
Yes!
a call for me like
That's what I need.
like
Do
I'm
dung
supposed
beetles
to know
make a
it.
noise? I'm like,
Yeah. Okay. We're going to have to figure out like the most specific thing. Whitney and I are going to chat off microphone.
offline.
Yeah.
Prepare to be stumped, Tristan.
Yes.
Right,
Next
I'm
week
up for
it's
the
on.
challenge.
Yes.
I'm up for the challenge.
Okay. Well, good job to both of you. Whitney, thank you so, so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. This is really encouraging just to see, yeah, the heartbeat of trying to educate more people and share your love of the bush. I can't wait to listen to more episodes.
Thank you.
Oh, cheers. Thanks, Whitney. And
yeah.
thanks so much for coming on, really. You're such a legend. That's unbelievable. Like, our first guest is so exciting. I was quite nervous. I'm not going to lie.
Oh
I
my
was saying
gosh,
goodbye
no.
last night on the phone. I was like, I've never interviewed anybody. I'm normally the one getting asked all the questions. So, like, yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh
Like,
my gosh,
yeah,
of
you're such a
course.
Yeah,
star.
Tristan was a
Really
bit
appreciate
quieter
it.
today than normal if anyone has listened to our previous episodes, but killed it as well
I
as
also
usual.
talked a lot, so sorry if I was
No,
a
you're
microphone
amazing.
hog.
Amazing.
Not at all.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And please join us again next week. Join us over on Instagram and TikTok. And we'll continue to dig into all things animals, animal conservation. And as a reminder, as always, let the heart of the wild inspire not just awe, but action. We will see you all soon.
Bye, everybody. Thanks. See you soon.
Bye.